Still the team to beat, Ferrari entered 2008 as favourites to retain both their world championships. Kimi Raikkonen and Felipe Massa have been a dominant force over winter testing. The time set by Raikkonen in the recent Bahrain test was 2 seconds quicker than last year's pole time. Such is the pace of F1 development, despite having mixed engine performance. Apart from McLaren, reliability could be Ferrari's biggest challenge this year. While some teams can set good times running low fuel loads, there's no one close to the pace of Ferrari when the cars are running with normal fuel loads. Michael Schumacher's made his contribution, running in some of the tests. The lap time advantage currently enjoyed by the Italian team is 0.4 of a second per lap, a big gap in F1 terms. That may change as teams bring on new parts in the days before Melbourne, but Ferrari may also have some new parts of their own. An enthusiastic Raikkonen says, "We're very consistent. To drive a car like the F2008 is fantastic. It's already really quick." The most interesting aspect is that it's quick in both race trim and in the more extreme qualifying trim. And in both situations, it's always very easy on the tyres. It doesn't destroy them. Given that Ferrari have the quickest car during winter testing, Felipe Massa has had little attention ahead of the new season. Kimi Raikkonen may be the world champion, but the Brazilian had his measure for most of 2007. Kimi Raikkonen, bolstered by his world champion status, could have the edge. But the underrated Massa remains in contention if he can adapt quickly to the absence of traction control. McLaren's focus has been distracted by high-profile legal action and speculation on the future of team principal Ron Dennis. Pressure has been mounting on the long-serving Dennis, and the pressure of last year must be starting to take its toll. However, a big, successful organisation can't rely on any one person. Engine partner Mercedes is playing a greater role this season. McLaren's drivers are Lewis Hamilton and Heikki Kovalainen. Will Hamilton have the car capable of pushing Ferrari? And will he have a teammate capable of pushing him to the limit? Although McLaren and Ferrari are well matched over a single lap, the Scuderia has a significant advantage over longer runs. That has more relevance to a real Grand Prix, which is really 3 short races of about 25 laps between pit stops. The sight of Hamilton ahead of Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher at the recent Barcelona test was a real fillip for the team. They're still coming to terms with last year's dramas. Without the input of Fernando Alonso, experienced test driver Pedro de la Rosa has an important part to play. The two racing drivers have only 2 years' experience between them. To play his part effectively, Kovalainen will have to get used to running at the front of the field and the pressure that goes with that. The McLaren way is for him to receive equal equipment, and he won't destabilise the team. Wins for Lewis Hamilton and podiums for Kovalainen is a reasonable expectation. With all the troubles of the last year, McLaren will have to work hard to keep up their motivation. Be BMW Sauber has the evenly matched Nick Heidfeld and Robert Kubica as its driver lineup. It's part of team principal Mario Thiessen's master plan that BMW Sauber will win races this year. The team's advanced rapidly in the past 2 years, but progress over the winter season has stalled. They want to be in a position to challenge Ferrari and McLaren. Such is their ambition that rather than highlight the positives, namely their lead over Renault and Williams as the best of the rest, the team has bemoaned the gap to McLaren and Ferrari instead. There's no doubting their ambition or that the F108 can go faster. And once the team discover how to dial out the instability that's aggravated both Heidfeld and Kubica during testing, then the timesheets may take on a whole new perspective. Heidfeld's disappointed with team progress. We're not getting closer to Ferrari or McLaren, but we are beating down the neck of Renault, Williams and Red Bull. We still have problems. The car is too unstable. We can expect another closely fought battle between the two well-matched teammates. Kubica, in particular, has much to prove after he billed before 2007 as a superstar in waiting, only to fail to make a single visit to the podium. The real question for the team is, can either of the drivers propel them into the top echelon? Renault are struggling to keep pace with Ferrari and McLaren. Even after the return of prodigal son Fernando Alonso and the promotion of Nelson Piquet, Renault have trailed the top two by over half a second. The main question is whether Alonso can inspire the sort of improvement he claimed to have brought to McLaren last year. And will that be enough to win races? At least Fernando won't have to worry about his teammate this year. Piquet has been a long way behind the former world champion as he gets to grips with the R28 and the demands of Formula One. Alonso is realistic. At the moment, there's no possibility to fight for podiums or wins. To close the gap and be right behind Ferrari and McLaren with 2 or 3 tenths is not such a big problem. But to be 1 second or 8 tenths, like we are at the moment, is a little bit too much. Mindful of the negative publicity his petulant behaviour provoked last year, Fernando has struck a more mellow figure since returning to Renault. Both on and off track, this should be the year that Fernando restores his battered reputation. The new Renault seems to be around the pace as the Williams, but what's not clear is whether that's ahead or behind BMW. It'll certainly be a challenging season ahead for double world champion Fernando Alonso. Williams drivers Kazuki Nakajima and Nico Rosberg are the winter's big improvers in the Toyota-powered FW30. They've frequently finished ahead of Renault and BMW in the timesheets. The Grove concern, celebrating its 30th year in F1, is attempting to dampen down talks of a resurgence. But it will be no surprise if the Williams drivers are the third fastest team in Melbourne. Williams co-owner Patrick Head says the car's better and faster than last year's. But we can still see there's a good gap between Ferrari and ourselves, so we have a lot of work to do. Red Bull's RB4 has proved more reliable over the winter than its predecessor, and Mark Webber has set some quick times. The Dream Team Technical Alliance of Adrian Newey and Jeff Willis will need to get results soon. However, they still remain adrift of the second-tier lineup of Williams, Renault and BMW. Veteran driver David Coulthard expects a tough season. What's not clear for us at the moment is where we fit into the mix with BMW, Toyota and Renault. And it mightn't be apparent even in Melbourne, because that's a particular track. I think by the time we're through the first 3 Grand Prix in Melbourne, Malaysia and Bahrain, we'll have a very clear picture of who the pace setters are and what the pecking order is. Mark Webber should have the edge, but much depends on reliability. Coulthard, the old man of the grid, is almost certainly approaching the final year of his long Grand Prix career. Honda has disappointed so far. Having joined the team 6 months ago, Ross Brawn's input into the RA108 has been minimal. Winter testing has been so poor that the Brackley team might write off this year. That will allow the technical team to concentrate on finding a route back to respectability in 2009. But will Jenson Button be willing to wait that long? Ruben Barrichello will have to do much better to retain his seat. Ross Brawn is planning a long way ahead. I think we have to be realistic and say our objective this year is to score some points and get the team respectable again. We have to consolidate the team and get everything functioning again. If we win this year, it will be very lucky. We have to look forward to 2009 and 2010. Time is running out for Toyota, and winter testing has been unremarkable, outpaced by Ferrari in one test by over a second. Jarno Trulli, along with his team, has underperformed, occasionally lighting up a race, but all too often fading into obscurity. The recruitment of Timo Glock, fresh from success in GP2, may be just the boost the team needs. Glock is cautious about the team's prospects. It's difficult to tell. I think we're around the package where maybe Williams, Renault and Red Bull are. It's difficult to say whether they're still in front of us. You never have a really clear picture of the tests. It could be we're in that group, or it could be we're maybe slightly behind. Hardly inspiring words from the new driver. From board level, failure is no longer an option. Jarno Trulli must be aware that if Glock has the upper hand, he won't be retained for 2009. Toyota make all the right noises and make the right presentations. It's time now for results. Force India's VJM-01 only made its on-track debut 3 weeks before the season. Technical boss Mike Gascoigne was instrumental in bringing in Giancarlo Fisichella. He joins Adrian Sutil, who had an inconsistent debut season. Fisichella says that since I first drove the car, we've made real steps forward, especially in the setup. The Force India car has potential, and there'll be new aerodynamics for Melbourne. Whether they can move from the back of the grid remains to be seen. If winter testing is any guide, the battle between Toro Rosso drivers Sebastian Bourdais and Sebastian Vettel should be very competitive. Team manager Massimo Rivola says, the testing we've done so far indicates we're in the middle part of the grid. We're ready for our first race in Melbourne, but at the same time we must consider our rivals will further improve. We must keep on our toes. Sebastian Vettel is one of the most promising talents in F1. And Sebastian Bourdais' arrival is long overdue. It will be interesting to see how the 4-time champ car winner copes with F1. he's concerned about his qualifying performances already. And Toro Rosso's position in the midfield will be unfamiliar for a driver used to winning races. The clash of the two Sebastians should be compelling viewing. And finally in our pre-season guide, Super Aguri promised to be in Melbourne with Takuma Sato and Anthony Davidson, but there's a big financial cloud hanging over the team's future. All it looks like another great season of Grand Prix racing.